Mara Venn had sorted obsidian every day since her mother died of lung lock 3 winters ago. The work was simple. Touch each shard, check for the blue sheen that marked memory stone, toss the dead rock into the discard pile and the living rock into the order's cart. Her mother had done the same work, her grandmother too. The Venn women had been sorting the mountain's teeth for as long as anyone remembered. On the third day of the spring thaw, with the snow melt running in black rivulets through the sorting yard, Mara picked up a shard the size of her palm and felt the world fall away. She was not in ashfall. She was in a temple of white stone with pillars carved like the ribcage of a sleeping god. A woman in gold-threaded robes stood at an altar, her hands pressed to a slab of obsidian the size of a door. The woman was weeping. Around her, the temple was collapsing. The stone was screaming. Mara dropped the shard. It hit the frozen mud and cracked in two. The sorting yard rushed back. The gray light, the smell of wet stone and mule sweat, the distant clang of picks from the tunnel mouths above. Nobody had seen her fall. Nobody had seen the vision. She looked at her hands. They were trembling, and she knew with a certainty that sat in her chest like a stone that she had just touched the memory of a woman who had been dead for 1,000 years. Brother Sylvan received the report that evening. It came from a woman named Alara, who sorted 2 stations down from Mara and who had seen the girl's fingers touch the shard, and her eyes go white. Sylvan heard the description with a stillness that Alara found unsettling. He thanked her. He gave her a silver coin. And when she had gone, he sat alone in the shrine for a long time, his black-stained hands folded in his lap, his breath slow and deliberate. A key, after 20 years. A key had walked into his sorting yard. The Order of Silent Hands had spent centuries pulling memory stone from the Obsidian Peaks, thousands of tons, millions of memories. The dead of a dozen empires lived on in those shards, faint as whispers, preserved in the volcanic glass like insects in amber. But the keys, the rare ones who could read the stone without the ritual tools, the Order had found only 3 in its entire history, and all 3 had died in the deep tunnels, their minds burned out by what they touched. The 3rd key had been a man from the northern coast. He had walked into the deep tunnels in the year of the Red Winter. He had touched the wall at the lowest depth, and he had spent the next 7 days laughing in a language that no living person spoke. Sylvan looked at his hands. The black stains had seeped into his skin so deep that the color would never wash out. He had been mining the walls of a cage his whole life, and now, finally, he had found someone who could tell him what was on the other side. Torin Venn knew something was wrong the moment he came up from the day shift and found his daughter standing beside Brother Sylvan in the lamplight. He had spent 30 years in the shafts. The deep mines did things to a man, not just the lung lock that had taken his wife, but something older, something in the stone itself. He had heard the Whisperers say that the tunnels went deeper than the Order admitted, that the lowest levels were not mined but excavated, that something had built them and the Order was merely following. He had always told himself he did not believe it, but he knew the sound of the mountain at night. He knew the way the walls hummed when you pressed your ear to the living rock. He knew. Mara has a gift, Brother Sylvan said, a rare gift. She can read the memory stone without tools. Do you understand what that means? Torin understood. He understood that the Order had been searching for something in the deep tunnels for centuries, and that every key they had ever found had died in the trying. He looked at his daughter. She was 17. She had her mother's eyes. She was looking at the shaft with the same expression her mother had worn on the day the lung lock took her voice. The Order has medicine, Brother Sylvan said softly, for the lung lock, for the miners who serve with distinction. Your name has been on the list for months, Torin Venn. I can move it to the top. Torin looked at his hands, the same black stains that marked every deep miner, the same cough that was already scratching at the back of his throat, the same mountain that had taken everything from him, offering his daughter as the next price. He said nothing, and that was how Mara knew he had already agreed. The descent took 2 hours, down through the worked tunnels where the pick marks were fresh and the dust still hung in the air, down through the middle levels where the walls were older, the memory stone thicker, the blue glow so constant that the lamps were hardly needed, down through the forbidden level where the tunnels became smooth and the air grew still, and the sound of the pickaxe gave way to a silence that pressed against the ears like water, and then the final chamber. The Order had been mining toward it for 200 years. The walls were not obsidian as Mara knew it. They were obsidian as it existed before the world learned to shape it, black glass so pure that it did not reflect light but absorbed it, so that the chamber seemed to shrink the longer you looked. Brother Sylvan handed her a lamp and stepped back. "Touch the wall," he said. "Tell me what you see." Mara pressed her palm to the cold stone. The world did not fall away. It shattered. She was not in a temple this time. She was in a void, a space with no up, no down, no light, no sound. And in the void, something was aware of her. Something vast and patient and utterly still. The voice in the stone, the throne bound. But this was not the throne. This was the sister, the silence in the mountain, a goddess of endings, of sealed things, of the cold dark at the bottom of the world. The order was not mining memory stone. The order was mining the walls of a prison, and the prison had been built by the first gods, the ones who came before the old god of the obsidian throne, the ones who understood that some things must be forgotten, not remembered. Mara withdrew her hand. The vision ended. She was standing in the chamber, her breath clouding in the cold, her fingers numb. "Well," Brother Sylvan said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hungry. Mara had never lied to a priest before. She had never lied to anyone, really. The Venn women had a reputation for honesty that bordered on stubbornness, a local saying that went as straight as a Venn girl's tongue. But standing in that chamber, with her father's cough echoing in her memory and the weight of a goddess pressing against the walls that held her, Mara discovered that she could. "I see the dead," she said, "the empire, the temple, the woman in gold, but the walls here, they are solid. The shells are not thinning, the memory stone is deep, but the cage is intact." Brother Sylvan studied her. His eyes moved across her face the way a physician might examine a wound, searching for the lie beneath the surface. "You are certain?" he said. Mara pressed her palm back to the wall. This time she did not let herself feel. She thought of her father. She thought of the sorting yard. She thought of the gray sky and the iron taste of snowmelt and the way her mother had looked at her on the last day, not with fear, but with the quiet certainty that her daughter would survive her. "I am certain," she said. She pushed a memory into the wall, not a true memory, a false one. A memory of the cage being stronger than it was, of the stone being thicker, of the darkness on the other side being distant and weak. She did not know how she did it. She only knew that the silence accepted it. The goddess subsided. The walls grew still. Brother Sylvan watched. He touched the wall himself, his black-stained fingers tracing the surface. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then he nodded. "Good," he said. "The Order will have more work for you, Mara Venn. Your father's medicine will arrive in 3 days." He turned and walked back up the tunnel. The lamp dimmed as he receded, and Mara was left alone in the darkness with her hand pressed to the wall, and the knowledge that she had just lied to a goddess and a priest in the same breath. The silence did not stir, but Mara felt it smile. Mara left Ashfall the following morning, before the sun touched the peaks. She took nothing but her mother's wool cloak and a loaf of black bread wrapped in cloth. She did not say goodbye to her father. She could not bear to see the color of the medicine on his lips, the price of her lie bought in a healer's bottle. The road south curved through the foothills, past the terraced obsidian fields where her grandmother had worked, past the stone marker that read, Ashfall, quota year 984, 300 tons, past the place where the mountain's shadow ended and the plains began. She did not know if the lie would hold. Brother Sylvan would test the walls again, she knew. The Order would find another key eventually, or the silence would grow tired of waiting. The lie was not a solution. It was a delay. A gift of time bought with a daughter's debt. But a delay, Mara thought, was better than silence. And a girl who could lie to a goddess had learned the most important truth of all. The mountain was a cage, but cages had doors, and doors could be opened from either side. She walked south. Behind her, the Obsidian Peaks swallowed the morning light, and somewhere deep in the mountain, where the polished walls drank the darkness like water, the silence in the stone dreamed of the day the cage would open.